Hello and welcome to Marketing Speak. I'm your host, Stephan Spencer, and today it's my pleasure to have Jason Osborn with us. Jason started his online marketing career 15 years ago as a life coach. Now he works with businesses across the globe, showing them how to get consistent, high-quality leads on LinkedIn without being spammy or paying for ads. Jason, it's so great to have you on the show.
Hey, Stephan, thanks so much, man. Really pleasure to be here with you. So thank you.
Yeah. Now we met through JVMM, Joint Venture Mastermind, that you're a part of, as am I.
Yeah.
And I was really intrigued, first of all, not by your marketing acumen, although it's great, and that's why you're here, but because of your incredible story of surviving a near death experience, is surviving something that very, very few people can survive, and that is a plane crash. So if you could tell us a little bit about that, I would be very grateful.
Sure, of course, my pleasure. So I was living in Texas. I'm from America. I grew up in Texas, in Houston. My accent is a little bit funny now. I moved to the Republic of Ireland in my early 20s, and then ended up moving here to the north of England about 12 years ago. So my accent's a bit all over the place, but I am from Texas, believe it or not. I was 20. I always forget because it was such a weird year, but I was 22 when this happened. It was about 19 years ago. It was January 17th, 2002, and we were looking to create a or like build a youth facility, like a youth kind of place that people could teenagers could come to and hang out and play basketball or video games and just like a youth community type facility. And so we were looking for other places that had built something similar so that we could kind of model off of that and learn from their experiences and all that sort of thing. So we had found a place in a little town called Killeen, Texas, near Temple, Texas, and we flew out there. We had a friend who was a pilot, and he was like, "Oh, we'll just fly out there." So, all right, cool. So it was five of us on the plane. We were on a little twin engine prop plane, a little Cessna twin engine prop, and it was the first time I'd ever actually been in a prop plane. And we flew from Houston to Killeen. It was about supposed to take about an hour or so. Yeah, so we took off and just started flying. For anyone who's been in a small plane like that, you'll know this, but I didn't know it at the time. They're very loud. You can't hardly hear anything. They're so loud. So we were the pilot and the guy who was sitting in the co-pilot chair. Obviously, they were in the front of the plane, and then the other three of us were in the other seats. So it was tiny. It was only six seats, and there was five of us in there. And so we were chatting for a little while. And afterwards, we just got tired of shouting at each other. So we were just all kind of doing our own thing, reading or whatever. And I was looking to start up another business at the time, and was just kind of projecting out some ideas on it and all that kind of stuff. I looked down at my watch, and it was about an hour. So I was like, "Oh, I wonder if we're getting close," because it's about an hour, and wonder we should be getting there fairly soon. And about that time, the guy who was sitting in the co-pilot seat, I was sitting in the bucket seat, kind of right behind him. I was the only one facing the tail of the plane. He kind of turned around and just said, "Guys, you need to pray because I don't think we're gonna make it." I thought he was joking because he's kind of a messer and joker and stuff. And I was like, "Ha, funny." He's like, "No, I'm serious. You guys need to pray. I don't think we're gonna make it to the airport." And we were like, "Oh my God." A couple seconds later, I always have to think because I was facing the tail of the plane. So the left hand side of the plane, the engine just stopped. It just stopped spinning. And a couple seconds later, the right hand side stopped as well. And we were just gliding down, and we ended up coming in to, we were flying over like an estate, like a housing estate. The pilots are taught to, when you're crash landing, to fly in between two trees to take off the wings because the wings are made to break away from the plane because that's where all the fuel is stored. And so that's what he did. He was flying in between two trains, not two trains, two trees. But the plane was built a year before those regulations came in, and so the wings didn't really give the way they were supposed to. So when he hit one of the trees, it torqued the plane 90 degrees, and whilst ripping off the whole right side of the plane. which is the side that I was on. And when we torqued a 90-degree angle, we smashed into a house. So yeah, we crashed, and there was a lot of fire. And um, kind of long story short, me and one other guy survived, and the other three passed away that day. It was a very surreal experience. Didn't really know what was going on when I came to in the plane. It all happened very quick. We ended up about a year later. I think it was about a year later. We found out that there was some utility workers down the road, and they had ran out. This was before cell phones and camera phones, being able to take videos on your phone and stuff. But they had a digital camera in their truck, and they were just a couple of doors down, and they actually started taking photos. So it was interesting because when we actually got the photos, what I felt like was a long time was a matter of minutes after the crash when I came to and was trying to figure out where I was. I was confused, and it was a very surreal experience through that. So yeah, that was about 19 years ago, and a lot of things I had to work through, kind of that next year over that. But that's kind of a nutshell version of kind of what happened in the crash. So
Wow. 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 Did did you ever write a book or memoir or anything about this?
I haven't. I've started one. I haven't fully completed it. We'll see. I mean, I'm not in any rush to get it out, but I've started probably in the last year. I've started using that story more as a way to get people's attention,
Hmm.
because it's something that's different. And it took me a long time to get to that place, because I thought, how can I use that and leverage it for my gain, which was what a lot of people would kind of look at that from. But I've, after years of just, you know, I guess kind of thinking on this and chatting with people as well, it's my life, it's my story. And if I can use it in any way that will benefit people, whether it's they've been through some sort of tragedy themselves, doesn't mean you necessarily have to have lost anyone, but we all go through tragedies, and divorce and business challenges or business losses or whatever. If there's anything that I can do to help people, kind of encourage them, then I want to do that. At the end of the day, I've always been really big on impact and helping people, and I've got a podcast called the Atomic Impact Podcast. My business is called Impact for Leads. So it's all about impact, and so if I can use any part of my life to help impact people, then I'm willing to do that.
Yeah.
So,
Well, you've earned your stripes, certainly. And to
uh,
use that story to connect with people, to reach more people, I think hats off to you. You might as well. You went through the pain of it. You might as well have something to work with, having come through the other side. So thank you for sharing that. And I first heard you say that you'd survived a plane crash. One of the first things I thought of was the story, a true story of a 17-year-old Julianne Kepke, and how she fell 2 miles out of the sky in a plane. She was the sole survivor, fell into the Amazon rainforest, still strapped into her seat, and
wow,
miraculously survived. There's a movie being made about it called Girl Who Fell
wow,
from the
that's
Sky.
amazing.
Yeah,
Wow, I've never even heard that story. I'll have to check that out. That's something else.
yeah, yeah. It was Christmas Eve, 1972. Yeah,
Wow,
yeah,
that's amazing.
yeah. So
Yeah.
her parents died, and everyone else on the plane died, but she was able to not only survive. She didn't have life-changing injuries from it, and it gave her a lot of drive to really focus on the Amazon rainforest and saving the species in the Amazon. So she's made a big
Wow.
difference in her life
Wow,
with
that's
that.
cool, man.
Yeah. All right.
That's
So
amazing.
thank you so much for sharing that. Let's switch gears to marketing. In particular, let's talk about LinkedIn, because that's the area that you focus on the most. Why LinkedIn? Why not Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest,
Every
YouTube.
other platform.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's interesting. It was a bit of a journey getting to LinkedIn. So I started so when I moved to Ireland, I was looking for a business startup. I've always been quite entrepreneurial. Had my first business when I was 20, and I was really intrigued with this whole online marketing world. This was 16 years ago, so it was really, really new then. It's still new as an industry, but it was kind of wild, wild west back then. But I was really intrigued with this, so I trained up to be a life coach and started marketing myself online. Didn't have a clue what I was doing marketing myself, but I loved being able to know that I could have impact around the world and help people. As a result, 18 months later, I had built up an email list of 9,000 people. I was coaching people in 13 countries and doing all that sort of thing. And I'd gotten to know some bigger name internet marketers, and they said, well, you should start helping people with their online marketing. And I was like, why? Like, I don't know anything. They're like, man, you know a lot more than you think you do. I was like, okay. So I took their advice and transitioned into that about 12 years ago. And in one form or another, I've been either doing or helping people with their online marketing over that time. So um, a couple years ago, I kept hearing things about LinkedIn. And I would hear little things, people saying, oh, it's great. Or, I'd see something come up on someone's feed about how they're getting leads from LinkedIn. And I was just blown away by it. I was like, LinkedIn, like it's just a resume website. Like, how in the world would you create leads on LinkedIn? I just didn't get it. So I started diving in a little bit more, and another guy that I'm good friends with, another online marketer, he was like, well, you ought to look to get into it and stuff. I was like, okay, well, let me look into it. So I started messing around with it. And I gotta tell you, Stefan, for the first 2 months, I was just baffled, and I actually even gave up on it. I was like, I don't get it, because what a lot of people try to do on LinkedIn is they try to use LinkedIn like they would Facebook or Instagram, and I was still trying to see LinkedIn through those eyes, and I just couldn't figure it out. So I actually gave it up for a little while, and then I was like, no, it was kind of became really personal. I was like, no, I've figured out other platforms. Like, I'm not gonna just, if other people are doing it, there's got to be something there. So I dove back into it and really started kind of understanding what was going on with LinkedIn and stuff. And what I realized is that the number one, LinkedIn is probably the most misunderstood as well as most underutilized platform out there, because it is different in its nature. And when I realized that LinkedIn actually wants you to generate leads from their platform, it changed the game. I was like, hold on, wait a second. Like, they actually want you to generate, they've created it to network, and not, and it's different from a social networking platform like Facebook and LinkedIn. Sorry, Facebook and Instagram. Because Facebook and Instagram, I always tell people that the two differences between those platforms and LinkedIn is the psychology of which, or the mind frame, the frame of mind that people are in when they go onto those platforms. So when most of us go onto Facebook, Instagram, we go on thinking about what have our friends done. Let's check out what our friends are doing, or we'll post, what we ate, or a party we went to, or a picture of our kids. And it's social, it's about our life and who we are, and it's that sort of thing. LinkedIn's different. When people come onto LinkedIn, they are not in the frame of mind to be posting pictures about what they ate, where they went yesterday, like on, or where they've been on their vacation or holiday. They're not in that mindset. When people come onto LinkedIn, they're geared towards business, and the platform is for business people. It's for professionals. And so when I started really understanding this, and most people don't get this, and I understand it, because we haven't been taught it, right? Which is what I'm trying to help people understand. But when you get that, it changes the whole game. And when you realize, again, that LinkedIn wants you to actually use their platform to network and generate business, you just have to figure out how they want you to do that. But they're not real clear on how to do that. And once I figured that out, it just took off. Then I was generating leads every single day. I didn't even have a website. I have a website now, but I refused to have one for quite some time because it was one of my angles for people. It's part of my unique selling proposition. Is look, I don't even have a website. I'm generating leads every single day from LinkedIn if you know how to use it right. So that's why LinkedIn is a bit of a journey, but that's why I use it, man. It's a brilliant platform.
So give us an example of a success story, a client success story where they didn't get how to be on the platform. You taught them the approach. You gave them the the blueprint or roadmap, and then they just took off with it.
Yeah, cool. So I can give you a couple of them, but the one of the ones that I usually talk about is a client here in the UK, and he is an independent financial advisor, and he'd been on LinkedIn for a long time, and but he wasn't really generating a lot of leads from it, which is what I get from a lot of people. Oh yeah, I've been on it forever, and or I'm making posts on it, but I'm not really generating leads. So when we started looking at it, one of the biggest mistakes that people fall into, and this is true on all platforms, but particularly LinkedIn, is that they will what I call they'll commoditize what they do. So they fall into a commodity based market. And what I mean by that is this: they will just state on their LinkedIn profile that they are a such and such. So I am an independent financial advisor. I'm a life coach. I'm an executive coach. I'm an accountant. I'm a solicitor. Who cares? They're a dime a dozen. Like there's millions of them out there. What makes you different from everybody else? And so one of the things that we look at is how you actually frame what you do, how you position what you do to make it stand out from your competition. So that's what we did. We worked with him when we were chatting through kind of the process from it. I said, "Well, what do you love doing?" And he said, "I love working with people on their pensions." And I was like, "Oh, okay." It took me back by surprise a bit. I was like, "Pensions?" I was like, "That does not sound very exciting." And he's like, "No, man." He goes, "I love working with pensions." I was like, "Well, why?" He goes, "Listen." He goes, "I can work with high net earners, high net value people, whether they're high net value or just high net earners." And he said, "I can help them restructure their pensions to help them retire up to 10 years early." I was like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, hold on a second. Nowhere on your LinkedIn profile does it state that at all." He's like, "Well, no." I was like, "Why?" You know, so what we did is we helped reframe what he was doing, change up his headline, and where it talks, and basically it says that I help high net earners to restructure their pensions to retire up to 10 years early. And then with your profile, it needs to be all about your prospect. And this is something that again we often miss because we do think of LinkedIn as a resume or CV website, which when you write a resume, who do you write it about? You write it about you, right? It's all about you. But on your profile, when you're using your LinkedIn to generate leads, it doesn't need to be about you. It needs about you, but it needs to be about your prospect. Your prospect doesn't care about you. They just want to know how you can help them. So it's about framing how you can help them. It's all about them, not selling or pitching or anything like that. So we just helped him reframe that and then go through. There's a process. I have a method that we work through on LinkedIn, and that's what he started doing. And within 8 weeks, he generated an additional 35,000 pounds of business, which was amazing. So, and we see that happen all the time. Clients, they land their own clients oftentimes within the first week, could be the first couple of weeks. I've got another client who, 25% of all their business now comes from LinkedIn. So, and they didn't even have a LinkedIn profile when they came to me. So, yeah, I mean, that's what we see happening on LinkedIn. And it's phenomenal when you use it right and you're not spamming people and you know how to actually connect with people correctly. It is a brilliant, brilliant platform to use.
Wow, amazing. So you have a client who gets 25% of their business from LinkedIn, and they didn't even have a LinkedIn profile before starting with you.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
And what kind of
Not
business?
he trains people on Instagram. So he's an Instagram mentor, trainer, consultant. But we've had people like again, the independent financial advisor. He's a professional services person. We have life coaches coaches, anyone that kind of falls into that life coaching kind of thing, generating all sorts of leads from the platform as well. We have someone else. We call them joint venture brokers. So people that basically connect people with their ideal prospects. They're the link between people. She landed 5 clients in her first 10 days, which was amazing, and she was just blown away by that. So we just see all sorts of really cool things happening on LinkedIn. It's phenomenal.
Right, right. And you said that you got a big influx of leads personally. Was that for life coaching or was that for your LinkedIn business when you first started
That
going?
that was for LinkedIn and what I was doing with online marketing, and then I started moving more into the LinkedIn element of that. And now it's just purely I just help people with LinkedIn. So it's pretty much where I get all of my business from in terms of what I'm doing in like lead gen outreach type stuff. It's so that's what I do. So I coach, mentor, consult people, corporates, solopreneurs. As long as you have something kind of business to business or business to professional, then it's a phenomenal platform to use.
Yeah, awesome. Well, we'll talk more about that, but I'm just curious to a little sidebar here for a minute. What kind of
Yeah.
life coaching were you doing prior to this?
Do you know what? When I started, it was just generic. And if I were to do it again, I'd do it probably differently now because I've learned so much on how to market and position yourself and all that. But when I started, that was just general life coaching. I was coaching people, gosh, on everything, and it was great fun. I enjoyed it. I still use a lot of those skills working with people because even when you're helping people in business, there's still a lot of kind of mental things that we need to go through and
Yeah.
all that sort of stuff. But if I were to change it, I'd probably work more with executives on just I'd probably fine tune it more towards executives, or potentially maybe even dads. I like working with men and dads and stuff like that
Hmm.
as well. But yeah, back then, yeah, I still didn't know as much as I've learned
Yeah,
now.
yeah,
So
yeah. Definitely, it's good to niche down so that you can differentiate from everybody else. And
yeah,
the skills you get from a life coach are so invaluable, and not just personal life, but in business. You know, the biggest roadblocks that we face as business owners, entrepreneurs, executives as well, is between our two ears.
yeah,
It's our mindset. It's the stuff that
yep.
the beliefs that aren't true that we believe to be so. Yeah.
Exactly. 100%. And I tell clients that all the time as well. The number one, particularly people that are just starting off online, if they've never owned a business before, it's an exciting journey, but it's also very challenging as well. And I always tell them the number one, I actually ask them, what do you think the number one reason is that people fail in their online business journey? And they'll give me all sorts of stuff, platforms or knowledge or whatever. I'm like, no, it's our mindsets. We're going to face challenges. We're going to feel like giving up. There's just times where you think, oh my God, why did I choose to do this to myself? And that happens, but it's realizing that and moving past that and just saying, okay, cool, I've recognized it now. Let's move on. Let's find solutions and go from there.
Yeah. And somebody who's resilient, maybe even anti-fragile, in that they thrive in the challenges and the trials and tribulations. Somebody like Keith Cunningham, who lost hundreds of millions of dollars, lost his entire fortune that he had built up, and
Yeah.
started all over again and built an empire even bigger the second
Yep.
time around. I mean, that's so inspiring, and it just goes to show that it's not about having a silver spoon in your mouth when you're born. It's not about getting the right lucky break or whatever. It's about making your own good luck.
Exactly. Yeah, which it just takes perseverance and consistency and the willingness to be coachable, whether you have a coach or just the willingness to learn and realize you make mistakes instead of going, well, no, I'm going to do it this way. Yeah, you
Yeah.
do those things and usually you'll be fine.
Yeah,
So
and belief in yourself,
yeah,
belief in your higher power, belief in the ultimate outcome that you're after, that
yeah,
it's not just possible, but it's inevitable.
exactly,
Yeah,
100%.
yeah.
Yeah, man.
All right, so let's talk now about LinkedIn and how to generate leads. I see a lot of LinkedIn requests coming into my personal LinkedIn that are so spammy and irritating.
Yeah,
And if they just, let's say that they don't send a spam message in the initial request, connection request, as soon as I grant the request, then they send their spammy 5 paragraph spiel like 10 seconds later. It's super
yeah,
annoying. And I'm sure that people who do that get kicked off the platform. They get enough complaints. I've complained before. I don't do it all the time, but it's like especially egregious examples. I'm like, all right, I'm going to block that person, and then when I choose to block them, it's going to ask, would you like to report it? Yeah, okay, I'll do it. But I don't do it often. I don't believe in throwing people under the bus or
yeah,
shooting at the competitors or whatever. I just think it's not sustainable what they're doing. I don't think it is value focused. It's not give and then get.
yeah,
It's stealing people's time and attention,
yeah.
and I don't like it. So what are your thoughts on that, and how do you differentiate from that?
Yeah, yeah. First of all, I completely agree with everything you said. It is very annoying. There's been kind of a perfect storm, if you will, around stuff with LinkedIn over the last kind of 2 years. So there was already quite a lot of momentum of people wanting to understand LinkedIn, and then so people were getting into that. Obviously, people would see opportunity around and go, "Oh, LinkedIn's the new thing." So let me, even though it's been around forever, but LinkedIn is this new thing. So I'm going to start telling people I'm a LinkedIn expert. And then, of course, the pandemic hit. How else are you going to connect with people, right? You can't go out and connect with people the same way. So LinkedIn got a lot more people coming on, using the platform, and then wanting to use it because that's the best way to actually reach out because you couldn't prospect necessarily the same way you used to before. You could maybe go out and do meetings and stuff like that. So there was a lot of people claiming to be LinkedIn experts when in reality, all they would do is set you up on an automation tool, which is exactly probably 95% of what you've said is what your experience is just an automation tool. Someone that can set you up on an automation tool is not an expert in marketing. Anyone can do that. You can do it yourself. It's not hard. And that's what those automation tools do. And even then, a lot of times the way that they target who they're connecting with isn't even targeted, and then which is even worse because then you're getting messages that completely not related to you at all. So yeah, the automation tools they send the connection requests out to people, and even in the connection message, sometimes it's quite spammy. And then if you do accept it, it's set up either to send out a message within the first 5 or 10 minutes. You can set it up to send it within the next 24 hours, but usually within that first day, you just get a message. It's usually quite long, telling you all their services, how you're going to change their life, and all this sort of stuff, right? And it gets really spammy. So I saw this coming for quite a while. LinkedIn has recently made some changes on the platform about a month ago. They've reduced the amount of connection requests that people can send out now. So I've started seeing spam reduce as a result of that because you can't send. I mean, people were sending out 200 connection requests a day. It was crazy, and that's not what LinkedIn is there for. And I always tell people you have to look at it from the platform's perspective, whether it's LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Google, YouTube, doesn't matter. You have to look at it from their perspective. They want to make sure the users are having the best user experience on the platform. If the users aren't having a good experience, what do? They leave. And they're not going to have that. So they're going to make sure that they're going to restrict, reduce, get rid of, whatever, any thing that is going to be annoying their users. And so that's the reason why they've brought in this thing. Now, it hasn't really affected what we do, because if you do it right, it still works. So with that, when you're connecting with people, you want to make sure it's targeted. You want to make sure that when you're reaching out to people, your connection request message does not read as spammy. Don't be asking people to be getting on a phone call with you in that connection request. Why would they? They don't know you. Why would they, waste half an hour of your time, or sorry, of their time to get on the phone with you? They don't know anything about you. So, those connection requests, you want to make them personalized. Doesn't mean you have to do every single one personalized, but you want it to come across where it doesn't look generic and spammy. And then when you do actually reach out and message people and communicate with people, you want to do it in a way that is different. I always tell people, whether it's the way that you message people or the content you put on LinkedIn, you want to do something that interrupts people's scrolling pattern. All right? You want people to go, whoa, that's different, right? Because it's been shown in studies, we have a scrolling pattern, just scroll, 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 scroll. We don't even pay attention to what it is that we're looking through. We just aimlessly, it's
We're
weird.
robots.
It is. It's
We're
like we're
asleep.
robots. It's absolutely true. And so you need something that stands out and makes you different in that. So when you do message people, you want to make sure that it's different. There's different ways you can message people on LinkedIn, but you want to do it in a way that's different. And then with what you're saying to them, you don't want to just be saying, look, this is what we do, schedule a call. Why? Like, you don't even know anything about, there's been no rapport, no relationship building. That doesn't mean you need to spend the next 2 weeks chatting to them about their life. I'm not saying that. But why would someone actually want to communicate with you? So be as you said, you want to show value, show that you're a real human being. You're not just some automated tool sending out a message because you're desperate for business.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's just
now
in a
these
nutshell,
automated
obviously.
tools. There's one called Ducks something.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Duck Soup.
Yeah,
That's what it is.
Duck Soup, yeah.
I haven't used it, but I've heard of it. These aren't they terms of service violations to use these automated tools?
Technically, yes, it's against LinkedIn terms and condition to use automation tools. LinkedIn knows people use them, so it's
They're turning a blind eye to it pretty much.
well, they're turning a blind eye if people aren't abusing it, and people have been abusing it, and so they've restricted the amount of connection requests that people can send out to 100 a week. On some people's profiles, I've seen a little bit more, but not much more than that. So, compare that to, people who are sending out 100, 200 a day. That's a big difference for people. So for, spammers, they work off the law of averages. You get enough messages out there, you're going to get someone coming back. Sure, let's get on a phone call. So you take the large numbers away, then all of a sudden your averages drop, and then it just doesn't work. So, I mean, the connection requests, even our connection acceptance ratios that we're getting from people, we're seeing anywhere between 60 and 70% connection acceptance ratios. Most people never see that. They might get 20%, 15%, but if you do it right, you can get really high connection acceptance ratios, which helps with those numbers again, because now your people are actually wanting to connect with you because there's a reason to. So yeah, and I'm not here slating automation tools. It sounds like I am, but if I think there are some automation tools that you can potentially use for some purposes, but when it comes to messaging, I don't think automation tools are great for messaging because it's too generic. You can't stand out different enough from your competition to make your prospects to go, wow, this person's really different. I want to actually learn more about what they have to say.
Yeah, yeah. Now, one tool that I think is kind of essential for LinkedIn in terms of generating leads is Sales Navigator. And that's a tool from LinkedIn, so you're totally within the terms and conditions to use that. And that helps you target people more effectively. So as you said, one of the first stages of this whole process is targeting, going after the right people who are the most relevant people to.
Yeah.
You're relevant to them, they're relevant to you.
Yeah, yeah, and there's two tools. Sales. I'll talk about Sales Navigator in a second. The other one is your social selling index score, and it's free. You can go. You have to be logged in to LinkedIn to get this. You can just go to Google, type in social selling index, then, and you can get that for free. But when you look at that, there's a couple things to make note of this. It's called your social selling index, right? LinkedIn's trying to establish how well you rank on their four criteria for your social selling, right? So they even want they're tracking you on this, and the higher your score, the more likelihood you're going to show up on people's feeds and all that kind of stuff, because it's showing LinkedIn that what you're doing is relevant. So when I started realizing this, like, wait a second, LinkedIn's actually got a score. They score me on how good I am at social selling. Well, I need to get better at social selling then, because if I can do that, then I'll show up better. Then, as you said, the other thing is Sales Navigator, right? A tool that's helped you to navigate your sales on LinkedIn. When you start realizing this, you're like, oh wait, they've given me tools to figure this stuff out. So LinkedIn is fantastic. I mean, sorry, Sales Navigator is brilliant. The filters that you can do to find your ideal prospects is by far the most targeted on any of the platforms. It's so precise that what you can do to search for people, bring them up, and then start building that. And again, we have a whole methodology and system that we work through on that. But it's Sales Navigator's brilliant. Most people, when I talk to them, they're like, "Oh yeah, I've used that. It doesn't work." It's like, well, did it not work, or did you not work it right?
Yeah,
You know?
exactly. Now you said you have a method or methodology. Could you walk us through what that is?
Yeah, so overall, I have a methodology called the leads method. So the methodology that I have through that, we start off with L, which is laser focus. And the first bit of that is getting really clear on your positioning, how you are framing what you do. So what we said around all your headline, and then getting that really clear. And the laser focus bit is around that and your profile. Once we get that done, and that has to get done first, then we move into the E and A, which is expertly connect and adding value. So you want to be able to use Sales Navigator and target in specifically on who your ideal prospects would be. And then you want to be able to add value to your prospects. Show up. Just one example of this is before you ever even send a connection request, comment and like on their post, right? Show up in their world. And if you look at most people's posts, I'd say uh, this is just me just making up a number here based on my experience. I'd say probably 95 to 98% of people who make posts on LinkedIn have fewer than 5 comments on their post, right? The LinkedIn algorithm for their post, there's an algorithm all around this. Very few people hit the numbers where it starts being actually generated more on people's profile, which means very few people get a lot of comments. So when you comment on someone's post, it's like gold dust to them. Like, oh my God, particularly if you're a second or third degree connection, right? They're like, oh, whoa, someone outside my network seen my post. Oh my God, is it going viral? Like people are just, they love it. So you show up on their radar before you ever send a connection request. How much more likely are they to accept the connection request if you've been shown to engaging with them? Now there's a little bit more that we do around that, but that just one element of adding value goes a long way.
Mm.
And so you want to expertly connect, add value, and then once they connect, there's kind of a whole process we teach, and it's dependent on your niche and all that kind of stuff. But then you add the value, and then once you do that, then you move to the D, which is direct and close. So you're not trying to sell on LinkedIn, you're not pitching on LinkedIn or anything like that. It is a tool to move people onto a phone call. So you can actually have a conversation with them and find out exactly what they need. Can you help them? All that sort of thing. And then close them if you can help them, right? So direct and close. Then once we've done all that, we go to the S bit, which is scale. Most people, Stefan, they want to scale first before getting everything else in line. And I always tell people, if you don't have everything else in line and you try to scale, you're going to scale problems. So we get everything else in line first. We validate the entire process for them, and then we start looking at how to scale, potentially using some tools that help, but then also how to do that maybe in terms of having someone work on that for you, having a VA. We have a whole process and system around all that as well. So because you don't want to be doing all of that work yourself every day, you want to focus in on what you're good at, which is usually speaking to clients or selling or whatever it is, that particular person is doing, whether they're a salesperson in a company or a CEO or whatever it is, solopreneur, doesn't matter, but you focus on what you're good at. So
Yeah, that concept is so critical. I was just on a strategic coach call with Dan Sullivan, and he was teaching one of his tools, and it's just an hour ago, right before our interview. And it's so important to identify your own unique ability. That's the term that
yeah,
he uses, and every one of your team's unique ability, and for them to know that and keep them in that unique ability for as much of the day as possible. If you can be 90% of your time in your unique ability, and same with your team members, wow, that's golden. And
yeah,
one thing I wanted to also point out too is the E in the leads method of expertly connect. And you spoke earlier about interrupting the scroll. Can you give us an example of the kind of connection request that just is kind of a jaw dropper that makes people go, whoa, that's really innovative, that's unique, that's something that makes me pay attention?
yeah. So I'll start off giving a boring one, right? Something
Okay.
that we see all the time, because it's the contrast of these two things. So what I see a lot of people, like when I get connection requests, and I'm sure you see these as well, Stefan, but when a lot of times people will send something and they'll say, "Oh, I see that we're both in the same industry. Let's connect."
Yeah.
Okay, I still
So,
don't know why. Yeah, exactly. So, or here's one of my most hated favorite ones, right? Where they'll go, I wanted to connect because I'm growing my network. Okay, so you've just literally told me the only reason why you want to connect with me is to grow your network. Well, what's in it for me, right? Like, there's no reason for that. Or no reason why I would want to connect with someone like that. So you want to stay away from stuff like that. So just the boring, generic, anything that makes it look like the reason you're connecting with them is purely for your benefit, like it's selfish. Don't do that. Stay away from that.
now what
So
about if you don't put any custom message into the connection request at all? Is that bad as well?
it's I always say test it. I don't like doing it. I'm a little bit different because of my the niche that I'm in. For people that are in kind of that lead gen online marketing stuff, there's a lot of us out there, even though we're not all the same. And and people are inundated with people that saying we can get you leads or market you and all that kind of stuff. So it's niche specific. I think you need to test that. Personally, I think if you just send a connection request to somebody, um, why would they want to connect with you? They don't know you. There's no reason or anything like that. I don't recommend it, but I have heard other people that have had good results with it. But it depends on the niche.
Got it.
So,
Okay.
yeah. But in terms of a good kind of connection request message that you're putting in, again, if you are commenting and liking someone's posts, then a very easy one is to say, "Hey, I saw your post. I'd love to connect." Right? Because they've already seen that you've engaged with them, and it makes more sense, right? If someone sends me a connection request message like that, I'm like, okay, cool. They've checked out my message. I know they've engaged, they're interested in me, and they're wanting to connect now, right? Most people will accept those types of connection requests because why wouldn't you want to connect with someone that's already engaging with you and is like what you're putting out there,
Now, what
right? So
if,
that's
so I get a bunch of requests as an author of The Art of SEO, which is kind of a definitive book in the topic space. I'll get all these LinkedIn requests, connection requests, and they'll say, loved your book, helped me get to where I'm at, you know, please connect or something like that. You know, that feels, that feels good to the ego, but then I question, is that true? Or did they just see that I authored or co-authored a book and then they're just mentioning that in their kind of personalized, scaled blurb that they send out to everybody?
Yeah, good point. So this is dependent upon, sometimes you just need to fill out, take do basically follow your gut on those types of ones. Some people might see that in a message, or sorry, not your message, profile, or they might just put in like, they'll use tags where it'll just automatically populate in your company name or something like that. And so those, yeah, it's a little bit different. Now, if someone's commenting on your post and they've actually commented on it, then that's different, because if you made a post, Stefan, about your book and someone actually commented on the post and said, "Oh yeah, Stefan, I've read that book. It's really helped me. This is what it's been able to do," and then you get a message from them saying, "Hey, I read your book and I commented on your post," that's different. It's not an automation tool now. So it depends.
Yeah.
Absolutely depends. But if you're sending someone a connection message, and maybe they don't have a post, they've never made a post or anything like that, just put something a little bit that's unique in there. If you're funny, try to say something a little bit funny. I've used connection requests before where it literally just starts off with capital letters OMG. Are you sick and tired of getting these spammy connection request messages? Right? And I got a great response from that because it's just different. It's like, oh, yeah, I am tired of these, and sometimes people just accept because it's just different. So the other thing is, if you can personalize it a bit more, if you are looking at really high-end clients and you need that extreme personal touch, take the time to do that. Look through their profile, make your connection request message say something that they know there's no way it could be an automation tool. You're going to get higher acceptance ratios on those as well. So the next question that people have is, well, how do you scale that? Well, that's why we get to that in the scale, but we got to validate the process first, and then we look to scale those methods later.
So is this scaling with tools or is it with people like VAs or both?
Usually it's VAs. I like VAs. That personal touch, you just can't really beat it. There are some automation tools you can use, but again, I don't like telling people unless I'm coaching them how to use them because you need to know how to use them right.
Yeah, you can
Or
get in trouble
you
if
just,
you. Yeah,
yeah,
it's like
yeah. Which,
driving a truck or something for the first time. That could be a real mess.
yeah, you need someone to kind of help show you the way with it. But one thing is a definite no-go is to use any automation tools that are Chrome extensions. You'll get your account shut down really quick on LinkedIn using Chrome extensions. So,
Oh, really? Okay,
yeah.
good to know. All right, so
Yeah.
one piece of advice that I remember Taki Moore telling me and others in the Black Belt Mastermind years ago was flip the script on what everyone else is doing. Everyone else is being personal on Facebook and they're being professional on LinkedIn. Thus, flipping the script on that is to be personal on LinkedIn and professional on Facebook. So professional as in putting out ads for your trainings or what have you. Like when everybody's talking about their dogs and what they had for dinner, you're putting out really professional looking ads on Facebook, but then being personal on LinkedIn is making you more approachable, more human. You're cracking jokes, you're being funny, you're doing stuff that makes you stand out. Now, it doesn't
Yeah.
seem like that advice is counter to anything that you're talking about, but early on in this conversation, you did say that you need to understand that LinkedIn is a place for business professionals, and if you try and treat it the same way that you treat Facebook, you're not gonna gel with the community there.
Yeah, so there it is a great point. There's a difference between being you and um, posting things on LinkedIn that aren't relevant. And so I'll give you an example. I saw a post this a while back. So someone made a post that I think it was either I think it was what they ate the night before, right? And there was no context necessarily. It was literally like a post you'd see on Facebook. Like literally, you'd go, "This is a post for Facebook." There were so many comments on that post going, "This is not the platform for this type of post," right? So I have seen posts though on LinkedIn where maybe it is about food or a holiday or your kids, but you're framing it in a way that makes sense for the platform. So it could be about work-life balance, right? Now all of a sudden it makes sense on the platform. If you're maybe having a picture of the what you ate last night, maybe you're telling a story about how it relates to something you've done in your life and how it's helped you grow or helped you benefit in your business. Then it's personal or it relates to business. That's different, right? But you just out on the beach in your bathing suit, just going, hey, with a beer, like that's not professional. Like, hey, we had a great time. It's like, it's like, whoa, like that's Facebook stuff, you
Yeah,
know? Now,
it's
if you
it's
had a
showing
picture
up
of
in I don't know, board shorts and no shirt at a board meeting.
exactly, exactly. So, yeah, there's context to all of that stuff.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Now, all this is precluding paying for ads. You don't have to pay for LinkedIn ads to be successful with lead generation on LinkedIn. Do you see a place for LinkedIn advertising? And I'll preface this by saying that I had a very bad experience doing LinkedIn ads. It was a total waste of money. It was a five-figure experiment that failed. I'm not inclined to do it again anytime soon. So, with that all said, what's your position on LinkedIn advertising?
So, LinkedIn ads is quite expensive. It's definitely not as cheap as you'd get like on YouTube or Facebook or Instagram. You need to have a high-end product or service that you are offering to make sense of that, but it always comes down to testing. I'd say for anything that you're doing, definitely make sure that you're testing things organically. If it's working really well organically on LinkedIn, then and you've got that process down, then take what you've learned from that and transition into some LinkedIn ads and test it and see what works for you. But I wouldn't recommend just jumping in to LinkedIn ads. They are more expensive.
Yeah. Okay, got it. All right. So, last quick question, then we'll wrap up.
Yeah, man.
Back to the plane crash again. Was there something that you want to share with our audience here, with our listener, that was maybe a miracle, a message, some sort of gift in retrospect, looking back on it, that lesson or something that you want to share?
Um, there's loads, but I think one of the main things is with everything that you go through, there's an opportunity for growth. And no matter how tragic things you go through, um, there is always upside to it. And I know when you look at something that tragic in terms of someone dying, you think, well, there's no upside to that. But there's always a downside and upside. Even with the upsides we have, there's always a downside to it. So and this has been almost a 20-year journey of me learning all this stuff, but when I've realized that there's always an upside to downside, I approach things with that. So even in my journal, which I have here, I journal every single day. I write three things down that I'm grateful for every day.
Hmm.
And if I've gone through something particularly challenging that day, I will look what I'm grateful for in that challenge. So, has it helped me realize how resilient I am? Has it helped me practice my negotiation skills? Has it helped me to be able to see an opportunity that I didn't know exist, that if that problem didn't happen, I would have never known existed in the first place? So, looking at things from a place of gratitude, I think, is imperative.
Wow, that's beautiful. Being grateful not just for all the blessings, but for the challenges, because the blessings are hidden in those too. I love it.
Absolutely.
All right, Jason, thank you so much. Where do we go to work with you, to learn more from you, and follow all the cool stuff you're doing?
Yeah, man, cool. So I would be remiss if I didn't say LinkedIn. Check out LinkedIn. I'm definitely there. But I do have a free LinkedIn mini course for people if they want to check that out by going to impactforleads.com. They can go there and get that for free. And best way to check me out is that way. So
Okay, awesome. Thank you, Jason. So that's impactforleads.com. And thank you, listener, for sticking out to the end so that you can improve your LinkedIn presence. We'll catch you on the next episode. I'm your host, Stephan Spencer, signing off.